Yo, ready for a crazy ride? A wild woman, a messed up family, and a secret that'll make your skin crawl. Trust me, by the end of this, you won't believe what happens next. So hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, and drop a like, cause you don't want to miss this. And like we always say, even if some stories seem the same, they ain't never the same when I'm the one telling them. The movie kicks off with a wild, untamed woman circling an infant. She's rough, eyes cold, and fierce, like she's been living on the edge for too long. A wolf, tame but dangerous, circles the baby too, like it's waiting for a command. It doesn't hurt the child, but you can feel the tension. There's something deep in her eyes, something haunting. She's the last survivor of a long-dead cannibalistic tribe, a tribe that once roamed the coast. We don't get all the details, but it's clear this woman is living on borrowed time in a world that doesn't care. Chris Cleek, a country lawyer, is enjoying a BBQ with his family. The air is thick with smoke and laughter, but the oldest daughter, Peggy, sits by herself, eyes cold and distant, clearly upset. The whole thing feels off, like there's a storm brewing just under the surface. Their son, Brian, watches 3 or 4 boys corner a small girl. He stands up, but instead of helping, he casually shoots a basketball. Not a word is said about the girl, like she doesn't even matter. As they leave, Chris asks how the day went. Brian shrugs, saying he made 9 out of 10 shots. Not a mention of the girl, not a mention of anything else, just silence. That night, while Chris is out hunting, he stumbles upon the woman bathing in a nearby stream. He watches her for a moment, but then decides to leave. But curiosity gets the best of him, so he comes back later with a net to catch her. After a struggle, he traps her and knocks her out cold. Chris drags her back to the house, locks her in the storm cellar, and tells his family it's time to help him civilize her. There's no mercy in his voice, just cold control. The next day, while the woman is locked in the cellar, the kids at school start showing their true colors. Brian is playing basketball when a girl easily beats him. His pride takes a hit, and he gets angry. Later in class, he sneaks gum into her hairbrush. She doesn't notice and brushes her hair, but then it gets stuck. He offers to help, but as he brushes, he pulls hard, making her scream in pain. A twisted smile crosses his face, like he's enjoying every second of her suffering. At school, Peggy keeps to herself. She stays quiet, always wearing baggy clothes, like she's trying to hide from everyone. Her teacher starts to wonder if she's pregnant and tries to talk to her about it. But Peggy quickly shuts down, avoiding the question. She just wants to leave, so she heads home, her mind racing, trying to escape the uncomfortable conversation. Chris tries to approach the woman, but before he can get close, she bites off the end of his ring finger and swallows it. With a cold glare, she spits his wedding ring into the blood pooling at her feet. Peggy and Belle, Chris's tired wife, protest, but Chris doesn't listen. His youngest daughter, Darlin, tries to befriend the woman, but it's no use. Chris pushes forward with his plan, forcing his family into a brutal civilizing process that only grows more violent with each day. Later that night, Peggy sits on her bed, completely detached, like she's a million miles away. Her father walks in and sits next to her, but it's clear she's scared of him. Her mother, Belle, quietly watches from the shadows, her eyes full of concern. Chris starts talking, moving closer to Peggy, trying to comfort her. He tells her she's smart and beautiful, trying to make her believe everything will be okay. As he kisses her forehead, Belle steps into the room, her face unreadable. Later, Chris and Belle retreat to their room. They talk about everyday things, but the tension in the air is thick. Belle questions his idea of civilizing the woman, mentioning the 2 German shepherds in the barn and everything else. Chris doesn't answer with words. He slaps her hard across the face, silencing her completely. The next day, Chris heads to work. He looks like the perfect charming guy, smart, sharp, and friendly. He flirts a little with his secretary and some clients, acting like everything's fine. But underneath it all, Chris is just like his son Brian, a sadistic sociopath who enjoys hurting people for fun, without any guilt. The difference is, Chris is really good at pretending to be a nice guy. He hides behind a perfect image that fools everyone, while Brian doesn't bother with any masks. He's too angry and doesn't care who sees it. At school, Brian keeps picking on his classmates in cruel, sneaky ways, never actually hitting them, but always causing trouble. Peggy is on the soccer field, crying quietly when her teacher spots her. At the end of the day, Chris shows up to pick up his kids. Peggy looks uncomfortable, like she's trapped, but she doesn't say anything. It's clear something's wrong. At home, Chris forces the woman into a bath with boiling hot water. Belle watches, her face frozen as Chris touches the woman in ways that send a chill down the spine. Belle's eyes lock with the woman's, and for a second, it's like she's snapped. But she still helps Chris with his twisted plan. Later, Chris decides to use a high-pressure power washer on the woman, blasting her with cold, harsh water. Belle looks on in horror, but Peggy can't take it anymore. She rushes over and shuts off the power washer, trying to stop the madness. Chris pushes her back into the house, and he and Belle drag the woman back to the cellar. There, Chris forces her into a gown that Belle made for her, a cruel gift wrapped in control. Later that night, Chris quietly sneaks out of bed, his heart pounding with something dark on his mind. He goes toward the cellar, turning off the light and lighting a candle, the same one that was seen in his daughter Peggy's room earlier. This makes us wonder if he might have hurt her too. The next day, Brian comes home early from school, his face full of anger and confusion. Without hesitation, he grabs a pair of pliers and stabs the woman, sending a chill through the room. When Peggy catches her brother attacking the imprisoned woman, she runs straight to her mother and tells her everything. Belle, shocked and scared, reports it to Chris. Chris laughs it off, calling it just adolescent urges, which makes Belle snap. For the first time, she's had enough and says she wants to leave him, taking their 2 daughters but not their rapist son. Chris doesn't take this well. He reacts with rage, knocking Belle unconscious while Peggy watches in horror. Meanwhile, Brian seems completely unaffected by his father's violent behavior towards women. Just then, Peggy's teacher, Ms. Ratton, rings the doorbell. Ms. Ratton has been worried about Peggy's sudden sadness and the baggy clothes she's been wearing. She tells Chris that she thinks Peggy might be pregnant. Chris, furious, thinks Ms. Ratton is accusing him of getting his daughter pregnant. Without thinking, he strikes her. He and Brian tie her up and drag her to the barn where he keeps the German shepherds. Peggy protests, but Chris just pushes her away and starts yelling at her with cruel, hurtful words. In the barn, Chris and Brian lock Ms. Ratton in a dog cage, where the 2 German shepherds start barking and growling at her. But things take a darker turn when it's revealed that the cage also holds a girl named Socket, who has no eyes and acts just like the dogs. Earlier, Chris had mentioned something about anophthalmia to Belle, hinting at the girl's strange condition. As the dogs and Socket start attacking, Ms. Ratton becomes their next victim. Chris and Brian stand there, smiling coldly as they watch the gruesome scene unfold. Afterward, Chris tells Brian to bring the wood chipper, a rake, and some bags, because the dogs will never be able to finish everything. Meanwhile, Peggy finally frees the imprisoned woman from the cellar. The woman bursts out of her cage like a wild animal, and without hesitation, attacks Belle, who had just regained consciousness. She tears off most of Belle's face and throws her lifeless body into the air, as if it were nothing. After that, the woman heads straight for the barn, where she finds Brian and uses a lawnmower blade to slice his torso in half. Chris tries to fight back, but the woman rips his heart out and eats it right in front of him. With her cruel mother, father, and brother dead, Peggy is left in terror. She tries to escape with her little sister, but the woman doesn't harm them. Instead, she offers her bloody finger to the youngest girl, who licks it before offering it to Peggy, who refuses. The woman, along with Socket, who now behaves like her dog, and the youngest daughter, walk away from the house, almost like they're starting a new family. Peggy watches them for a moment, unsure of what to do. Then, something inside her changes, and she decides to follow them into the woods. Do you think the woman was a monster, or was she the only one who truly cared about justice? Drop your thoughts below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next wild ride.